I heard about EWB through some friends who were involved, and I started going to the meetings with them, and it's been a great experience for me thus far. I only joined this past semester, and I've already been able to go on these school trips here to El Salvador and hope to continue on in the future. It's really been a way for me to put into practice the things I'm learning in school, and also just see how engineers do things in other countries. Like, for example, coming to the poorest region of El Salvador, I really didn't know what we were up against, and it gave me a lot of hope to know that they already had a lot of really intelligent people, really just dedicated people already working on these projects and organizing to make their lives better.
I decided to get involved with EWB because the same reason I got involved with engineering as a major in the first place is that I prefer to do things that are practical. I like to work on projects where you can see a final result that's going to help people and not just like theoretical stuff on paper. And EWB gives me a really good opportunity to apply the stuff I learned to actually help people in the real world and not just theorize about things that are never going to reach real people.
Well, I heard about EWB through an email, and I thought I kind of knew what it was about, helping other people and using the skills that I had, and so I thought it would be a good way to use the skills that I did learn in class and also to learn new skills from people from different majors, I suppose. And I just really love to travel, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to see different places and get a different perspective on the world and just people in general. The most important thing I've learned from being in EWB and coming on this trip was how to adapt and be flexible and I guess respect different cultures. Also, I've learned about sustainable energy, which I'm really interested in, but I would rather go out and do it than just read about it. And so it was a good opportunity for me to learn about sustainable energy while implementing sustainable energy.
One really cool way I've been able to use my engineering skills on this trip is it's been a site assessment trip, and I was able to go around to a local radio station that is in contact with all the communities and sends out health advisories and weather warnings, but their power grid is sometimes less than adequate, and so we're trying to install green energy alternatives there. And so I was able to use a mixture of my broken Spanish and engineering knowledge to figure out electrical loads present, so in the future we can build a comparable solar system or wind system to power it.
In my general engineering class, for example, we had one unit where we were talking about Bernoulli's equation, and everyone else in the class was really bored, but for me it was actually interesting because that's exactly what we're doing here in El Salvador. It's a water project where piping and all the friction losses and stuff is really important, so it gave me a good reason to be motivated in my classes and pay attention.
I think it's an eye-opening experience because you hear about places that are underprivileged or underdeveloped, but it's kind of like in a different world. So when you actually go there and you see it firsthand and you meet the people it affects, it brings it like into my world where I can understand like what they're going through. For example, we lived with a family and we had to use outhouses, and that's just something I've only read about, and I would have never experienced that in my life. And so just having that experience, I think, makes me more well-rounded. It makes me more open-minded, more accepting of cultures, and it also makes you realize that people are the same. People want the same things. Like, they might not be the same like technologically, but their desires and their hopes and what they want for their family and their children, it's the same. They all want to be better. They all want the best that they can give, and it just brings it into the real world instead of being so detached. And that's something that I think you can only learn through experience, and you can never really understand until you've seen it.
But coming here to El Salvador on this trip, got to learn about the culture here and how the poor people, I guess you would consider them poor in material possessions, how they live, and it's really interesting the way they're more happy than a lot of people in the United States with what they have. They're really content and joyful, and in that regard I got to learn about their culture and also kind of question my culture and look back at it from a different perspective. So besides just the technical stuff, the data that we gathered, I also got to have a cultural analysis of just how are we living in the United States and how are other people living, and questioning things I always took for granted. Participating in an EWB project is something I would definitely recommend to any student, even if you're not an engineer, because there's so many opportunities to serve. You're not just filling out paperwork like you do in classrooms, it's actually hands-on and it gives purpose to what you're learning, which makes it a lot easier to pay attention and focus. I know that for our project we didn't just need engineers, we needed a health person to organize all the information, and we need people to help us with fundraising and marketing. So there's all kinds of opportunities, and when I joined I was just a freshman, so I didn't have any engineering skills whatsoever, but I could still do research on the internet and help people with fundraising and stuff like that. And over time I learned about the engineering stuff because we had presentations at the meetings, and just through working on it you get exposed to it, which I think is the best way to learn. And not only that, but being able to tell a future employer that you were in a foreign country and you were able to adapt to a new situation is invaluable when you're applying for jobs and just for personal growth. And just the experience of going to another culture is something that you can't learn in a classroom, you can't read about in a book, you just have to do it, and there's no replacement for that.